There are 17 people missing from my hometown. The police say they disappeared over the course of 23 years. Their families say they never came home. Their photographs are still on missing person posters around town, but I've seen every one of them. They're still living here, and the worst part is, they don't know they're missing. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 32 years old, and I grew up in a small town called Bellwood. Bellwood was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. There was one grocery store, one gas station, one high school, and a diner where the same 5 old men sat every morning drinking coffee. Nothing ever happened there. At least, that's what I thought. I left Bellwood when I was 19 and didn't come back for 11 years. Then my mother called me. She told me my father had died. I drove home the next morning. The town looked almost exactly the same. The same church, the same cracked water tower, but there was something strange about the bulletin board outside the post office. It was covered with missing person posters. I stopped to look at them. There were 17. Some were recent, others were decades old. One photograph caught my attention. A girl named Emily Carter. She had disappeared when she was 16. I remembered Emily. She had been in my class. I remembered the day she disappeared. I remembered everyone searching the woods. What I didn't remember was seeing her again. Until that afternoon, I was standing in the grocery store when someone walked past me. I turned. It was Emily. Older, maybe 27 now. Same brown eyes. Same small scar above her eyebrow. She pushed a shopping cart toward the frozen food section. Then I said her name, Emily. She turned around. She smiled. Do I know you? I couldn't speak. She walked away. I followed her outside. She got into a blue sedan and drove away. I wrote down the license plate. Then I went to the police station. I showed the officer Emily's photograph. He looked at me like I was wasting his time. She's been missing since 2014. I just saw her, he sighed. I put the license plate number on his desk. The car belonged to Emily Carter. The officer stared at the screen. Then he quietly closed the computer. Don't go looking for her. I asked him why. He wouldn't answer. That night, I searched through old local news articles. I found something disturbing. Emily wasn't the only missing person I'd seen. A man named Thomas Reed had disappeared in 2007. I'd seen him that morning at the gas station. A woman named Laura Bennett vanished in 1999. I'd seen her working at the diner. A boy named Marcus Hill disappeared when he was 12. I'd seen him riding a bicycle behind the high school. They weren't dead. They were here, living ordinary lives. But according to everyone else, they had never come back. The next morning, I went to see Emily. I found her address through the vehicle registration. She lived in a small white house on the edge of town. I knocked. Emily opened the door. She looked at me strangely. You're the guy from the grocery store. I know who you are. Her smile disappeared. What does that mean? You disappeared 11 years ago. She stared at me. I've lived here my whole life. Your parents reported you missing. She stopped laughing. My parents? Emily, where are they? She looked confused. My father died years ago. Your mother? She didn't answer. I showed her the missing person photograph. It was her, but something was wrong. She looked at it for several seconds. Then she whispered, "That's me." Her hands started shaking, but I don't remember this picture. That was when the lights went out. For a few seconds, the house was completely dark. Then the lights came back. Emily was gone. The front door was still locked. I searched the entire house. Nothing, except for a photograph sitting on the kitchen table. It showed Emily standing beside her parents. I looked at it carefully. There was something written on the back. You weren't supposed to remember. I took the photograph and went to the town library. I spent hours searching old newspapers. Eventually, I found something. Every missing person had disappeared on the same date, October 17th. Not the same year, but always October 17th. And every disappearance happened between 2 o'clock and 2:17 in the morning. I checked the calendar. It was October 16th. The next morning would be October 17th. I went back to my mother's house and searched through my father's belongings. At the bottom of an old toolbox, I found a cassette tape. My father's handwriting was on the label. October 17th. Do not listen. I listened anyway. His voice was quiet, terrified. If you're hearing this, then you're old enough to understand. There was a long silence. People don't disappear from Bellwood. They disappear from our version of Bellwood. My blood went cold. He explained that years earlier, he had discovered something beneath the town. A second Bellwood, not underground, not exactly. A second version of the town existing alongside ours. The missing people weren't dead. They had crossed into that other version. And once they crossed, the world slowly rewrote itself. Their families forgot them. Photographs changed. Records changed. Even their own memories disappeared. But sometimes, someone remembered. My father had been one of those people. Then his voice became quieter. Whatever you do, don't go looking for them. The tape ended. At 1:58 that night, I heard knocking at my bedroom window. I looked outside. Emily was standing in the yard. Behind her were the other missing people, all 17 of them. They weren't ghosts. They weren't monsters. They just stood there staring at me. Emily pointed toward the road. Then she said something I could barely hear through the glass. "Tomorrow, you'll forget us." At 2:17, every light in town went out. When they came back on, the street was empty. 17 people were gone. Again, the next morning I walked through Bellwood. Everything looked normal. The diner was open. The grocery store was busy. People were going to work. I stopped at the bulletin board outside the post office. There were no missing person posters. Not one. I stood there for several minutes. Then I realized something that terrified me. I couldn't remember Emily's face. I couldn't remember Thomas, Laura, Marcus. One by one, their names were disappearing from my mind. I ran home and grabbed my father's tape. The label was blank. The photograph of Emily was gone. I couldn't remember why I'd been holding it. Then I noticed something written on my hand. I had apparently written it there. During the night, 4 words. Remember what they took. I stared at it, and suddenly I understood. The people weren't the only things that disappeared. Every October 17th, Bellwood lost another piece of its history, another person, another memory, another truth. And eventually, nobody would remember that anyone had ever gone missing, except me, because my father had figured out how to leave a reminder behind. I still live in Bellwood. I still see people walking down the streets who shouldn't exist. Sometimes I recognize them. Sometimes I don't, but every October 16th, I write 17 names on my arms. Emily, Thomas, Laura, Marcus, and the rest. Because tomorrow, the town will forget them again. And I might forget them too. But as long as I can remember even one name, they haven't completely disappeared. Because I've finally understood what Bellwood does. It doesn't kill people, it erases them. And the most frightening thing isn't disappearing from the world. It's disappearing so completely that the world forgets you were ever here.